Hey guys, yeah, another finger here on YouTube. So today I thought I would be reacting to this recent video called Will China Invade Taiwan Next from a Taiwanese perspective, and also share with you some of my thoughts regarding the situations mentioned in this video. Okay, so without further ado, I'm gonna get to the video.
In February, the Russian armed forces initiated the largest-scale invasion seen in Europe since the Second World War, when nearly 200,000 of their troops
It feels like it's going on
Ukraine.
forever.
The event has understandably
it's so hard to believe
shocked
that
the
it's
rest
almost
of the
3
world,
months.
and has completely changed the way that our globalized
It
society
kind of feels like no matter how much we want it to end
countless
as soon as
ways.
possible, it's just
But
never
one of the
going to
places
end,
that
is
has
it?
been the most shocked and alarmed by the sudden invasion is a faraway island halfway across the world in the Pacific.
Island of Taiwan.
Of course, Taiwan's situation is, in many ways, highly similar to Ukraine. Both are smaller, de facto independent states directly next door to a culturally similar, but larger and much more powerful country that once historically ruled over their territory, and continues to consider them to be fully within its own sphere of influence.
And also has its communist roots.
For centuries, the island of Taiwan was ruled by the Chinese Qing dynasty in Beijing, and the population became majority ethnically Han, as in the rest of China. Taiwan was then conquered by the Japanese in 1895 and ruled by them for half a century, until it was returned at the end of World War II.
Okay, so I want to give you some more details on this whole Taiwan being returned story, because this really is the core reason why Taiwan is under such a controversial position for such a long time. So as far as I know, there never was an official agreement or signed document that is official under the international law that Taiwan would be returned to anyone. So when Japan surrendered and gave up their control in Taiwan, they did sign an agreement with the Republic of China, specifically the Republic of China. But even in that agreement, it was never made very clear that Japan would hand over their control of Taiwan over to the Republic of China. It only said that Japan would surrender to China, and also Japan would give up on their control in Taiwan. And then there was this Cairo Declaration where the US publicly approved that the Republic of China would now rule Taiwan, but that declaration was never considered official under the international law. So even today, a lot of people are actually also questioning whether the Republic of China rightfully controls Taiwan. So I use the word rightfully because that's what the People's Republic of China likes to say, like they rightfully own Taiwan. But the thing is that from the ROC perspective, when they want to say that they have this right to control Taiwan, they do kind of have this historical background and current reality to support their argument, right? Because like, as I said, historically they were the one who signed the agreement with Japan when they surrendered and gave up on Taiwan. And then there was also the Cairo Declaration, as I said, although not official, but to some extent still an improvement for their control over Taiwan. And then also under the current reality, they are the one who has been controlling Taiwan and is currently controlling Taiwan. And on the other hand, when it comes to People's Republic of China, with their claim that they rightfully own Taiwan, in a sense, it really is contradictory to the historical background and the current reality, because historically they have never owned Taiwan, and then currently it is also true that they don't have any control over Taiwan. But then of course another way of looking at it would be that it is true that the People's Republic of China and Republic of China are still technically under civil war, and both of them actually claim the whole mainland and the Taiwan island. So if the PRC and the ROC are having a fight because of this island, technically it would still be considered civil war. And I mean, it's true. So as I said, it really is very controversial, and you can make a lot of debates on both sides based on the way you're looking at it. And the main reason is that historically it never was made very clear that if Taiwan would belong to anyone, and if so, whom would it belong to.
But at the same time, the United States is a major unofficial ally of Taiwan. Taiwan is publicly considered a major non-NATO ally of America, along with Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines. The United States has sold tens of billions of dollars worth of military weapons and hardware to Taiwan, including things like advanced fighter jets, helicopters, missiles, and submarines.
Okay, so about the weapons that the US is selling Taiwan, I kind of want to share with you this info that is always portrayed in the news that we get in Taiwan. So I'm not sure if it's actually true, but I would always hear people saying that these weapons that the US selling us are actually outdated, like these are some of the older models and less advanced models and weapons compared to those weapons they're selling to other countries. So always in the Western media, it would kind of be portrayed like US is always selling us like really good weapons so we can defend ourselves from China. But from what I've heard, and not just like one time in the news, but also I've heard this since I was in like elementary school, and then all the way towards now, like always there will be this news saying that these weapons that the US are selling us is really like far behind all of the other countries. And a lot of people would interpret this as the US attitude towards this whole thing. So on the other hand, they don't want China to be able to invade Taiwan that easily. That's why they're selling us so many weapons regularly. But on the other hand, they also don't want Taiwan to become too strong to be able to become independent on our own, which is why they're intentionally selling us this outdated and less advanced weapons so that it's easier to keep a balance and keep the current status quo, or at least that's the information we've been getting here in Taiwan.
America recognizes Taiwan as independent in all but name, and will most likely come to the island's defense in the event of an invasion from China, unlike Ukraine. And the reason is because, simply put, Taiwan has become the most valuable and strategic island in the 21st century world to control. And it is at the epicenter of the brewing Cold War between America and China. The same way that Berlin and Germany was at the center of the last one.
I definitely heard that comparison
Whichever
when I was
side
learning
controls
German
Taiwan
and German
or
history.
has Taiwan on their side will quite literally win the entire
Wow.
21st century.
I didn't know it was this intense. It does sound like Taiwan is really important then, to both the US and China.
Within American foreign policy, this strategy is well known as the first island chain, and it was initially developed back in the 1950s after the communists first took over the Chinese mainland. By maintaining close military alliances with Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and the Philippines, all directly off of the Chinese coast, the United States can effectively control all of these choke points, contain the PRC
Wow.
Navy within her immediate territorial seas, while also simultaneously guaranteeing American power projection into the Far East from dozens of naval and air bases. And then there's the implicit threat that were there to ever be some kind of conflict, the American Navy and friends can easily blockade all of these choke points and strangle the Chinese economy into submission. From both Washington and Beijing's perspectives, Taiwan is the most vital piece on this board to control because it is at the
I didn't know
geographic
about this.
center of the entire first island chain.
Okay, this I didn't know about, because like back in school, when I was in history class, the teachers would always tell us that the US is intentionally keeping Taiwan as its current state to have some control over China, but for some reason they never really specifically told us why and for what purpose, but I'm glad that I'm learning it now.
And the single most important thing to understand about Taiwan today that explains everything from their huge economy to their position as the world's most valuable island of the 21st century is that they absolutely dominate the entire advanced semiconductor and chip industry that powers
I knew they were going to
every
dedicate like a
advanced
huge
civilian
part
and
on
military
this.
technology around the world. From smartphones and computers to advanced jet fighters and missile defense systems. Semiconductor chips of 10 nanometers or less in size are currently considered to be the most advanced. Tiny devices that pack billions of electronic components within just a few square millimeters of space. So thoroughly does Taiwan dominate this industry that 92% of the entire worldwide manufacturing of these advanced chips takes place on their island alone, within only a handful of enormously expensive, complicated, and highly specialized fabrication plants, or fabs, most of which are owned by just a single company. The Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC.
Pretty cool. So I guess it really was a super smart move for Taiwan to change from the traditional manufacture outsource to high-tech outsource. Because if you didn't know, Taiwan used to do the exact same thing as China is doing right now, like outsource for rather cheap products like toys or clothes. So the whole made in China being low quality, the stereotype used to be on Taiwan. I don't know if you know that there was a movie that made this joke like something that breaks easily, and when they look at it, it says made in Taiwan. So it used to be the job of Taiwan, but then it decided to make it high-tech, and then semiconductor was also one of them. And I kind of feel like at the beginning, not a lot of people would see that this would end up saving our life, like against the possible invasion threat from China. But now looking back, that definitely was a very smart move.
China is by far the world's largest single importer of petroleum, at more than 10.8 million barrels a day, which is 3/4 of their total oil consumption. And one set of projections from Tsinghua University reasonably calculates that China's oil and gas imports, primarily coming in from the Middle East, will peak between 2030 and 2035. China's economy and relative power are therefore both going to peak at some point this decade. And that means that its most likely chance to successfully accomplish decades-long held goals, like the control of Taiwan, is within the narrow window available to them between now and 2030.
Wow.
If they wait any longer beyond then, they'll only continue growing weaker, while America will most likely only continue getting stronger, or at least remain about the same.
Interesting. Doesn't that technically mean that if we could get through this decade, we will be safe forever? And from the video, it does seem like there are a lot of reasons that might make China think twice before they implement the full-scale military invasion on Taiwan, and it doesn't seem that easy to do anytime soon. So it does sound promising, but then my guess is that even without a military invasion, China might still try to use other ways to gain control in Taiwan. So if, for example, if China could ever meet a consensus with the US, because this whole conflict has always been just between China and the US, and what Taiwan itself wants really doesn't matter that much. So if somehow these two sides could make a consensus to have Taiwan become a part of China in a way that would benefit the US so significantly, that would secure their position as a leader of the world and also make up for that first island chain and maintain their influence in that area, I feel like if that, I don't know if it's possible, but if they are able to make this consensus, then immediately Taiwan would just lose all of its defense and of course just become a part of China. So my guess is that if it really is that urgent for China to make a move on Taiwan within the next 10 years, and if they feel like they will not be able to do it with a military invasion, they might try to convince other countries to give up their defense in Taiwan. And then unfortunately, there really is nothing much Taiwan could do, but we'll just see what happens and accept the fate, I guess.
And so, while an eventual conflict between Beijing and Washington over Taiwan is uncertain, one thing absolutely is. Whoever between them is allied to or controls Taiwan by the end of this decade will be all but guaranteed to be the most powerful empire for the rest of the 21st century. And the reverberations of any conflict there will be felt for generations to come on both sides. And based on that, both sides will have to do whatever it takes to make sure that Taiwan, in one way or another, is on their side and their side alone by the end of this decade.
Okay, I mean, whatever they do, whichever side wins, I really just hope that Taiwan could remain intact and the Taiwanese people can continue to live in peace and freedom. So that was the video. I love how they're making Taiwan sound like this magical treasure that can help you conquer the entire world. I don't know if it's intentionally exaggerated a little bit, but it was definitely very interesting to know about these things that makes Taiwan worth fighting for from a Western perspective. And I definitely hope you enjoyed the video as well. So please leave a like if you did, and please subscribe for more reaction videos from a Taiwanese perspective. And also please do consider supporting me on Patreon, because you will get 1 additional videos and 2 additional posts about Taiwan each month that are only exclusive for the members there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.